Hello, El Paso. This is Jud Burgess with Brave Books, and today I'm going to present to you Tales of the Book, Episode 8. This is an ongoing series where I discuss books that are important to me and could possibly be of interest to you. And so today we're going to discuss the whole Dr. Seuss fallout where they discontinued 6 of his books because of perceived racism within these books. And so I want to make it clear, first of all, that they were not banned, they were discontinued. So these particular books of his, which are among his first books back in the 40s and 50s, they have stopped the presses on them because there are some very insensitive portrayals of various ethnicities, that's a tough one, within the books. But I'm going to show you in the books themselves, because I'm in possession of 4 of these books. I mean, they're in terrible shape, but I have them here. And we're going to go over each book, and I'm going to show you where these perceived racial undertones are. And some of them are, some of them aren't. So basically, I'm leaving it up to you to decide whether you feel it's racist or not. As a bookseller, I think we all have to be very careful what we do when we start talking about banning books. And the thing about these Dr. Seuss books, I mean, he has been a beloved children's author for decades on end. And so there's a lot of schools that are kind of overreacting, in my opinion, and pulling his books off the shelves because they feel that these books are going to, expose children to racism. I think it's more ignorance or the times that they lived in during those. And I'll explain why, because a lot of you are going to disagree with me, but that is okay. We all have our own opinions. But anyway, let's start with his first book. It's called McElligot's Pool, right here. And so I went through this book. I researched it online, trying to find the racist imagery here. And basically, here's what I found. Here is an illustration of what looks like a gaucho on a tropical island. Okay? He's a foreign individual. And if you swing to the next page, you have these Eskimo fish, Eskimo men. Here, see them? The fish look kind of Eskimo. They're wearing those little Eskimo fur coats around their head. And then you've got these that man there that looks Eskimo. And so, I mean, this is what people are saying that, well, he's got an Eskimo in there. And I mean, really, there's nothing else other than these 2 images here. And so, to me, I see this more as his use of different foreign types of people to introduce children to people other than white Americans. He's got a person here on an island who's obviously dressed differently, and he's got an Eskimo. Nothing racist about it. I mean, there's nothing insensitive about it. So I kind of I don't see why this one's being discontinued. I know that the foundation received a lot of pressure from teacher groups and school districts and various other people, and that's why that they figured that into their discontinuing of these particular books. But here's another one, If I Ran the Zoo. Okay, now this one has some imagery that will offend people, and it offends me as well. But, Dr. Seuss championed multiculturalism. You see a lot of different types of people within his book, a lot of different ethnicities. But the thing is, he was not racist at all. He was ignorant. And America during those days was predominantly white. It's nothing like it is today, where people of all colors and all persuasions and all genders come into our country to live peaceably in an ideal world. But so let's look at this one here, okay? I flipped through the pages and found this here, okay? That is an image of some Asian people. And he's using chopsticks and sandals and, the slanty eyes. I mean, you can consider that, just cartoonish caricature. But it is offensive and insensitive. Because in those days, there was, Charlie Chan, acting a certain way. The way people thought it was, hilarious. That is insensitive to the Asian culture. And I can see that. But it's not racist in my personal opinion. Now, this over here is very inflammatory as well, but again, it's just the way things were in those days, unfortunately. But he depicted these individuals that came from Africa, Zanzibar, I believe it is here, or Mazurka, the African island of Yurka. And so he's got those figures there. And obviously, that looks very much like a blackface figure, which it is. Again, that's just how people represented African Americans in those days. It's offensive to us now, and it should have been offensive then. But the ignorance of white America in those days was astounding. So I believe this one has imagery that could be interpreted as racist, although I don't believe he was racist. I think he was just a product of his times, and he was rendering things, unfortunately, in a very ignorant way. Scrambled egg super. I looked through this book. Here's what I found. Once again, here's a scene with Eskimo-type individuals right here. And I'm telling you, as a kid, you're not going to interpret that as racist. Even as an adult, I don't interpret it as racist. And if I have to search through these books the way I have to find these images and assume that this is why they're banning them or why they're discontinuing printing of these books, I thought, well, children just are not that aware in terms of that sort of thing. To me, this is just a depiction of different types of people that live in the world. So I just very much disagree with how this was handled. Here's another image of a Turkish individual. I'll read to you the lines it says here. I needed more helpers, and so for assistance I called up a fellow named Ali, long distance, and Ali, as soon as he hung up the phone, picked up a small basket and started alone to climb the steep crags and the jags of Mount Struku to fetch me the egg of the Mount Struku cuckoo. I love that. So this individual here is, just somebody who's foreign. That makes it more interesting as far as I'm concerned. Kids are drawn to imagery that they're not familiar with. So these foreign characters are very exciting and interesting, but I don't find them one bit racist or offensive. Last book I'm going to talk about is On Beyond Zebra. And here, it's a wonderful book about letters and the combinations of letters here. And what I found, again, was just an individual that's dressed differently. He has pointy shoes. He's playing a weird instrument, has an interesting looking hat. But nowhere in this book did I find anything worthy of being called racist or hurtful to any particular ethnicity in our world. So it's just mystifying, sort of, that these things are happening. And like I said, as a bookseller who believes in the importance of books, even the bad ones, those are all necessary books to understand the world that we live in today. So anyway, Dr. Seuss, I love him. I've got a ton of Dr. Seuss here in the children's room that we have, and I will assume that he will always be on the top of the children's book heap when it comes to wonderful and just creative and exciting books for children to read. So anyway, I thank you for tuning in today. I hope you found it interesting. And like I said, it's up to you to make what you will of what I just showed you right now. And let's forge ahead, get our kids reading. Let's read ourselves. And I appreciate your time. Thank you. Goodbye.
Simply irresistible.